Good morning, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living's Sunday morning service. I am Alan Woodard. I'm a practitioner here at the Center, and we welcome you, and we're so grateful that you've taken the time to join us this morning. I'd like to introduce you to our guest singer performer this morning, and here is Susan Shan.
Good morning, everyone. This song is called Walk Along, and it's just about moving through life and not letting adversity get you down.
Take me or forsake me, but I won't be losing sleep. These currents that are pulling me run deeper than the ocean, carrying my soul to open shores. I fear no more. I walk along, I walk along, I walk along, I walk along. No seeds of doubt upon this soil, no sorrow in my song. I walk along. Yeah, 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 I walk along. I've known the angry rebel and the martyr on the cross. In each I've seen a part of me, some innocence I've lost, but always it is laughter that redeems me. It's hope that helps me face another day and be on my way. I walk along, I walk along, I walk along, I walk along. No matter who should say that I am right or I am wrong, I walk along. Yeah, 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 I walk along. Yeah, 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 I walk along. Do you remember when we still believed our love could change the world and find the cost of freedom was our anthem and our vow? Lately I have wondered what became of that young girl and how I came to take her place. Who am I now? Sometimes I just don't know, but I walk along, I walk along, I walk along, I walk along. No seeds of doubt upon this soil, no sorrow in my song. I walk along. Yeah, 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 I walk along. Yeah, 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 I walk along. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Thank you, Susan. And now we're going to have our practitioner reading and treatment presented by David Arnholter.
Good morning. My name is David Arnholter, and I'm a practitioner here at CSLN. It is a glorious day, and I get to give the reading today and share one of my favorite readings from Ernest Holmes. It's pages 302 and 303 from The Science of Mind. by Ernest Holmes. If one appears to have failed, they should realize that there are no failures in the universe. They should completely erase the idea of failure by stating there are no failures. If one believes that they failed last year, they will likely fail again this year, unless that false thought is erased. Release everything except the recognition of the one perfect power, which is not contingent upon any place, any person, any condition, time of year, or anything but itself. Spirit never fails. Say that with me. Spirit never fails. Good, good. So affirm this until it's a very part of your being. Spirit never fails. Now, a demonstration is made when it comes straight through from the truth. The one who wishes to make a demonstration must clear up their own subjective atmosphere. And the reason being that they may be objectively, consciously, making statements which their subjective, inward thoughts may be denying. In this way, we often neutralize our word as fast as it's spoken. So we must erase any idea of failure. Now, here is where it looks as if we're not really telling the truth to ourselves, but we're actually declaring the truth about the Spirit that indwells within us. Spirit never fails. Continue to affirm this until it's a very part of your being. There is no failure, no person to fail. Failure is neither person, place, nor thing. It's a false thought and has no truth in it. It is a belief in lack. And there is no lack. It's a belief in limitation, which does not exist. Spirit never fails. See this, feel it, know it. Right now, right here, you are encompassed by perfect life, by infinite creativity, by all power, by all guidance. The power of Spirit is supplying you right now with all good. And it fills you with good. It fills you with life. It fills you with love. All you have to do is receive. So repeat after me. I am certain. I am open. I am expectant. I am receptive. Spirit never fails. And so it is. And now for our opening prayer treatment. Let's all take a deep breath. And as you breathe in love and joy and beauty. And as you breathe out anything negative, anything that is concerning you today. And I just know that there is one life in this universe, and that life is God. It is the wholeness and the unity of all that is. Everything formed and unformed is this one, the Spirit of all life. It is the only presence, the only power, the only love, the only intelligence, the only activity there is. This one is known by so many names, and yet it's ultimately unnameable. Spirit is so vast, so spacious, so wondrous that no name or word can contain it. how awesome it is to know that this one is our life. It lives in us. It moves in us. It breathes us. And its being is who we really are. Whole, holy, perfect Spirit is the life of our life, mind of our minds, heart of our hearts, soul of our souls. It is closer to us than our heartbeats, nearer than hands and feet, more real than any experience. This wholeness of life is who and what we all are. And in this loving awareness, we experience today's gathering. It expresses itself as love, peace, joy, order, harmony, creativity, and beauty. And as we embrace this wholeness that we truly are, we reveal and manifest abundance in every single dimension of our life. And we are so grateful for this. We are so grateful for this community. We are so grateful for this glorious day. And I release my word into the creative law of mind, knowing it's already so. And together we say, and so it is. Have a blessed day.
Our speaker this morning has been a prophetic voice in the human potential movement as an unwavering crusader for mindfulness, global literacy, and social justice. Whether through teaching, evolutionary coaching, and keynote presentations, our speaker's singular intention has always been in bridging our collective forgetfulness into a great collective reawakening. As an award-winning author, leadership coach, and global education advocate, he loves leading through example and abides by the motto that people would rather see a lesson than hear one. In Atlanta, he served as dean to a council of multi-generational, multi-faith leaders who assisted others in dissolving systemic issues of unworthiness, bias, and racism, and builds new mental equivalents of equality, character, ethics, spirituality, and wellness. It is my pleasure to present David Alt.
Hello, my friends at Center for Spiritual Living, Nashville. What a wonderful honor to be able to be your guest speaker this morning. My name is Reverend Dr. David Alt. I am an ordained minister through Centers for Spiritual Living, and I stepped down from my pulpit in Atlanta at the end of 2018. And am really enjoying the way in which this global reset has lent itself to be able to speak to so many spiritual communities worldwide through amazing technology, and you get to be one of them. And so I'm honored to be here with you today. And I'm also honored with the challenge of taking something that is repetitive, like a holiday, today being Father's Day, and being willing to lean into that and find something fresh, perhaps a different perspective. I know in all my many decades of being a minister, such was the challenge for things like Christmas and Easter and things of this nature like Father's Day. And so I'm excited to share with you what has come to me, and hopefully my prayer is that you find value in it as well. I always do speak in intention. My intention is that which is the all in all. Use me as its instrument, as its vessel, in order to deliver to you, the listener, a very particularized gift, something that is uniquely and divinely designed to take you from where you are right now to where your heart desires to be. So that is the way in which I start this today. So as I was thinking about Father's Day, What came to mind was the very familiar story about the prodigal son, because within that story is the archetype of the father, the steadfastness, the unwavering love, all of the things that we have examined and explored in that story, and which has made it a beloved story. But I want to focus on a different thing about that story today. I want to focus on the pain. The pain. The pain that exists within the prodigal. In fact, if I was going to give a title to today's talk, I would call it The Pain of the Prodigal. You see, in all classic stories, in all biblical narratives and allegories, there is, and parables, there are a multitude of characters. And it is known that we are facets of each of those characters. We are facets or fragments of a hologram of all of those particular archetypes. And so it is with the prodigal and the prodigal's pain. And I want to offer you the idea that pain is helpful when it is mindful. In other words, pain can be useful when it is a part of a reawakening to bring us home to the Father, or to that which is God, or to intelligence. It can be a necessary component for our expanded awareness. Another form of pain, though, is a pain that is, I would say, not useful, and that is a pain in a mistrust in the divine. And if we never move from that, that becomes stagnant, and so then we live in this collective stagnation and remaining energy of that pain. But in the story of the prodigal, I want to talk to you in terms of it being useful pain. So when you think of the prodigal, you think, what was the beginning thing that made this son want to leave home? And it is a part of something that we have often talked about in New Thought, and that is divine discontent. There is a pain when discontent enters our awareness, when it crosses the threshold and it begins a prompting. It's the sort of avalanche of dissatisfaction that we begin to feel with where we are. It's a natural state of evolution. I remember as a young boy growing up in Southeast Texas in a traditional fundamentalist Christian background. And around my teenage years, I began to actually listen to the message. And in the listening of that, there was the birthing of, or the beginning of, these pains of discontent, where I didn't necessarily agree with what I heard, and yet I didn't know anything else. I didn't know other philosophies. I didn't know enough to go and explore through the avenue of books. I was unskilled in that because that had been my saturation. That had been my domestication. That environment, that indoctrination was all that I ever knew. But for some reason, it didn't sit well. Have you ever been in that place? Have you ever been in the experience of the pain of discontent, where there was a nagging or a knowing that said, enough of this, you have outgrown this. And in order for us to grow, we have to outgrow. In order for us to be available to what's next, we have to sort of energetically loosen this grip and open up in order to be able to receive something new. And there is a natural component to that we witness in nature all of the time. The butterfly, the trees growing out of seed, the blossoming out of a bud, all of those things are natural indication that this disruption or this discontent was taking place inside of that. For us, we're a unique creature because we have the capability to not do anything with that disruption, to dismiss the prompting that is telling us that it's time to explore something else. And we can find all different kinds of ways to medicate that through drugs and through food and through busyness and through attachment to identity and so forth. And so this particular part, the part that that son was feeling in this prodigal parable, is that discontent that made him want to leave the comfortability of home. And perhaps you've been there. And so he does. So he sets a course, again, no matter how unskilled he is, you have to give him credit for having the gumption and the courage to set and to chart a new pathway. And in our familiarity of the story and our understanding of the story, he loses his way. He becomes seduced by the trappings of the world, the shiny things that distract us from what is important, the unsavory characters that can sometimes latch on to us and feed on us for whatever it is that they want to take. We've all been there. And so that's yet another form of pain, and that is the pain of disappointment. We have sometimes charted a new course, right? And in charting that new course, we have an expectation. We have an attachment to a hope or to an idea or to a dream. And in those attachments, when they don't unfurl, they don't come about in the way in which we had hoped, then there is this new form of pain, that pain of disappointment. This is a tricky one because in that pain of disappointment, we can become very reticent in ever allowing ourselves to honor the next level of discontent. We can become very cautionary, right? And very static in the way in which we live our life. I like to call that prevention energy. Have you ever seen a building that has scaffolding around it? Well, when you look at that scaffolding, you're aware of the fact that that is temporary. That structure, that support system is only there in helping to modify, remodernize something in existence, to bring it up to code, if you will, to refresh and to renew it. The scaffolding isn't meant to stay up permanently. And yet many times when we're having our own interior remodeling, our own life remodeling, we can forget that this scaffolding that we have placed around our heart, some cautionary energy, is not meant to stay there. We're meant to continue to have this exploratory propulsion energy inside of us because we're evolutionary beings. But far too often we let the pain of the disappointment become a period where it should become a comma, or where it could be just a course correct rather than a finality. And so that particular pain, the pain of the disappointment, is also a useful pain because it teaches us about attachment. It teaches us to be cautious of becoming too rigid. There's a wonderful Indian teacher by the name of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and he is the founder and runs a global humanitarian organization called The Art of Living. A dear friend of mine is one of his helpmates. She has traveled a lot with him, helped produce events that he has been a part of. And so when he was in the United States once, she gave me the deep honor to be able to sit with him one-on-one and then to attend an evening darshan where he was speaking to thousands of people. And I'll never forget that night because he did something very masterful around this idea of attachment. And he said it this way. He said, I have come to believe that one of our greatest pains in society is stress. Stress is a killer. For with stress there is anxiety, and that anxiety depletes our immune system. It gets in the way of our joy and our happiness. And so we must find a way. We must find a way to reduce this thing called stress. And he says, and I believe that I have that way. And I'm wondering if you would be interested. He was very, very playful with the audience. And of course, those thousands of people who are a devotee of him were like, yes, yes. And he said, in fact, that answer, that solution is contained in one word. Would you like to hear what that one word is? And they all take sort of an inhale and hold their breath and lean in. And he goes, that one word is perhaps. You're thinking that your happiness will come if you can just get that job in another city and move to that place. And what I would tell you is, perhaps. You're thinking that if you can just get this person to love you, if you could just get them to act this particular way, then all would be right with the world. And I would tell you, perhaps. You're feeling that if you can just get this to happen within your family dynamic, then you will never have another issue or problem again. And I would tell you, perhaps. And I remember just laughing that night at the brilliance of that. Because indeed what he had done is he had provided us a way to look at our attachments. And the way that those attachments are so clever, so insidious, so interwoven in the dynamic of how you and I do life, that sometimes we're not even aware that they are there. And that causes pain, particularly when those attachments produce disappointment. And then when that disappointment doesn't get diffused and it just sits there, and then it compounds, and then it compounds, and then it compounds because we've done nothing to learn the lesson of attachment. In fact, what we've done is we've continued to collect them. So the pain of disappointment and attachment, again, very useful if it can return us back to the understanding of that which is God, that which is intelligence, that which is source, and see that perhaps our way is not the way. And then lastly in the story of the prodigal is the pain in failure. So when the prodigal son is in the pigsty, when he has lost everything, when those who had supposedly been friends had taken him and used him for their advantage and left him in his time of need, he began to understand that there are those people who will do that in the world. He began to see that the decisions that he had made since he had followed that discontent had not been wise ones, and that he had lost whatever fortune his father had given him, that he was reduced to this embarrassing state. And in this place, in this pig pen, he's come to realize that the only true salvation left for him is to return home. In our Science of Mind textbook, in the back, there is a very large section where our founder, Ernest Holmes, has written a lot in juxtaposition with biblical stories and biblical passages, with this prodigal son story being one of them. And Ernest Holmes described that journey as the son going off into the far country. And the far country represents the way in which our thought can move away from the centralized idea of being in alignment with God, being at home with God. And oftentimes we go to the far country every single day. Our thoughts travel to worst case scenarios. Our thoughts travel to painful memories that are still in need of healing. And so we go off into the far country mentally all the time. And we find in those journeys a particular pain, a pain of failure, a pain of shame, a pain of wishing that something had been different. And still, that is a useful pain if we allow it to be a motivator. If we allow it to do what it did for the prodigal son in that story, and that is allow him to drop all resistance and to come home to this archetype of the Father. There's a beautiful story told by the profound and wonderful Ram Dass. And he shared how in some of his earlier days that he would go to the prisons and he would offer meditation classes. He said it was amazing when he was allowed to be able to teach meditation to those on death row. Some of the most profound moments of meditation, of zeroing in this illumined state, would happen with those particular inmates. And he believed it was because they had been pushed so far into a corner and had been forced into this pocket so deep where there was no other recourse but to simply drop all melodrama and just return home. Return home in consciousness to surrender identity. And he said it was some of the most profound, beautiful moments of meditation that he had ever experienced in his lifetime. He said it was a privilege to sit with them because they were the masters. Imagine being pushed so far into a corner that we would allow all melodrama to drop, that we would allow all identity of who we think we are, of the labels that we have secured and cherished or tried to preserve, that we drop all of those things to become available to returning from any far country and coming home to that which is the Father. He said that's what would happen in that room. And then interestingly, he would leave those who were on death row, and then he would go to the cell blocks of those who were lifers, those who still were imprisoned, but were not going to be put to death. And he said the experience was completely different. There, they didn't really gravitate or look forward to meditation training. They would mock him. They would jeer at him. They had not gotten to that place where they had been pushed so far that the only other recourse was to surrender. They were in this existence, if you will. And he said the experience was like night and day. Pain can be useful. The pain of failure can also be useful if we can allow it to bring us home to that which is the Father. So what is the Father? Well, in our science of mind language, I like to think of the Father as the first step of treatment. It is the recognition of the One. So if you can imagine that the pain of, number one, discontent, this divine discontent, the pain in the disappointment of our attachments, and then the pain and failure. All of those things are beautiful and useful if the product of them is a rebirth. So when you think about birth, birth is messy. And rebirth, you and I going through a rebirth, allows us to look at the pains of our existence and celebrate them when they have allowed us to return back to the first step of treatment, which is there is only one God, there is only one life, there is only one presence. In the story, The son comes home, and he comes home to loving arms. He comes home to a celebration. He comes home as if nothing has ever happened. There's no ill will. There is no anger. There is simply beautiful acceptance, constant acceptance, always and in all ways. And thus it is with the first step of our treatment, when we declare and know that there is only one power. That power was even in the pain of the discontent. That power was even in the pain of our disappointment. That power was even in the pain of our failure. And so this Father's Day, rather than maybe honing in or thinking about your birth father, or not having a birth father, or wishing you had a different father, or even if you loved your father and had a wonderful relationship, no matter what the dynamic is, allow yourself to stretch this narrative a bit and to begin to explore what it would be like to return to that recognition of the One, of God, of Source, with such gratitude for the entirety of your life, for all of the pain. My very first teacher was Louise Hay. I had such a beautiful, rich opportunity in those beginning days to travel with her for several years as a member of a singing group called Alliance. And so we would travel in this van, and when she began to get notable from her book, we would go many, many places. And in those days, I was still a young actor and in need of having to call my agent all of the time to get the updates on auditions, long before the days of cell phones, right? And so there were many, many times where things didn't go my way, and I would bring my disappointments back into the van, and I would be sitting right next to Louise, and I would go off on all these diatribes about, oh, if I had only been raised in a different family, if I had had this advantage or this advantage, I wouldn't be having all of these no's in my auditions. And time again, she would just kind of smile really big, and she would look at me and she'd go, oh, honey, you got to learn to honor the entirety of your journey. And she would say that over and over again, ad nauseum. That was my thing. Honey, you got to learn to honor the entirety of your journey. And even to this day, I can still hear her saying that to me. And even to this day, I'm still working on that. Even to this day, honoring the entirety of the journey means to look at all of those pains, all of the phases of those pains, and not want to change them for anything, to honor them, but to understand that they are useful only to the degree that I allow them to do their work and to return me back home to the Father. You understand? So wherever you are where you are feeling stuck, I want you to look at that. And I want you to realize that that too can be a sacred place if you let it. That the pain that you're feeling, whether it's in the stage of discontent, or if it's in the stage of disappointment from attachment, or if it's from this paralyzing sense of failure, where your identity and ego is being challenged, that all of that is a divine opportunity. That everything is working together for our good, if what it does is gets us back to the first place of recognizing that the only power, the only presence is God. So that is my prayer and my wish for you today on this Father's Day. Know that wherever you are and wherever you are in consciousness and in your heart, I send you love. And I give the invitation for you to consider that the entirety of your journey has been specifically designed in order to get you back to the Father. May that journey be a beautiful one. God bless and take care.
Hi, good morning. This is Gregory Fisher. I'm a practitioner here at CSLN, and I'm also on the Board of Trustees. And I'm here to give sort of an update from the Board of Directors of Trustees on how we're progressing. Kate Prentice, who is the chair of the board, was planning on being here to give this board update today, but she found out on Thursday that her brother-in-law had passed away. I know we'll all hold her in heart and mind, and her family as they are experiencing that transition in their lives. First, I'd like to make you aware to announce that Karen Sorensen was appointed by the Board of Trustees at our regular June meeting. She was appointed as outlined by the bylaws as a new board member, and then she was also voted by the board to be the treasurer, which is also the way that position is filled by a board vote. She'll be filling that slot, and it extends for the next 2 years. Going forward, this board update will be a regular part of every Sunday experience as we traverse through this transformation period of our community. Board members including Kate and myself, along with Susan Prim, Lynn Bennett, and now Kate Sorensen, will be making these announcements so that you'll be able to see us and to kind of hear how things are progressing as we work these things out. By the way, if you want to reach any of us, you may do that through our community website at cslnashville.com. Click on About CSLN, scroll down and click on CSLN Leadership link. And on that page, you can scroll down to Find Out More button. Press that button and send us an email. I know that was a lot, but if you need to, rewind and you'll hear it again. In these challenging times and during this transformation at our center, it's important that you feel supported in our community. Our wonderful practitioners and ministers volunteer their time to give you an affirmative prayer treatment, and also are available for ongoing professional services. To submit an affirmative prayer treatment request, go to the website, cslnnashville.org, click on the Contact Us tab, scroll down to the prayer request link, and then scroll down to the form. Fill out that form and make sure that at the bottom you leave either your phone number or email address should you want the practitioner to reach out to you personally. In this week's email blast that came to you through your email, there was a link to a survey to get feedback from you and ideas on how to proceed with moving back to live face-to-face services at our center. Please fill out that reopening survey. There's a reopening committee being formed, and they would love your input. Not getting our weekly email blasts? Well, please go to cslnnashville.org and click on the multiple links to be added to our mailing list. They're kind of everywhere. A committee is also being formed to create and conduct a town hall meeting. The town hall will be an opportunity to hear from you, our community members, and on a variety of topics to be determined. Again, because of the restrictions we're facing with the COVID-19 stay-at-home order, there will be a consideration of different ways that we might conduct that town hall, including possibly a virtual town hall or conducting the gathering in some outdoor setting. That committee is working on that, and so that's two committees I just mentioned that are forming. And if you're interested in serving on either of those committees, please get in touch with the board, as I have mentioned earlier, starting with going to our website at cslnashville.org. And just contact one of us, and we will get you in touch with the right people to be able to serve on a committee. While you're there, do not forget to click on the donate button and share some love. All the expenses that continue, need to be met. But we ain't passing the plate. So your support, as always, is appreciated and is returned to you exactly according to your belief. I also want to remind you that with this YouTube channel and the virtual services that we're having now, if you'll subscribe down there, somewhere right down there, you'll see to click subscribe, and then you might even want to click on the bell that notifies you when something new has gone out. That will help a great deal. We'd like to get up to where we have at least 1,000 subscribers, because that puts us in a different category, and that's important as we proceed this way. I think that's everything for today. I just want to wish you all a happy Father's Day. It's an important day for fathers, and most of us at least had one. So it's meaningful to pretty much everybody. That's it for now. Back at you.
I'd like to introduce again our musical guest, Susan Shan.
This song is called Go Within, and it's just about going within yourself to find the truth. It goes like this.
When you come to a fork in the road and you're not really sure which way to go, before you just start driving blind, turn on your GPS. You know love's right there to help you find the answers you request. When you go within, seek the truth. Let the Spirit guide you through. Take a moment, listen to your heart. It will never steer you wrong. It knows just who you are and where you've been. Oh, the path will be clear when you go within. And when your life just brings more of the same, it's like you're tied to the bed you have made. You know that chains that seem to bind you become the key that sets you free when you open up your mind to a different way to be and go within. Seek the truth. Let the Spirit guide you through. Take a moment, listen to your heart. It will never steer you wrong. It knows just who you are and where you've been. Oh, the path will be clear when you go within. Yeah. There's so much noise and distraction. You know it's easy to lose your way before you take another action. Take the time to stop and pray and go within. Seek the truth. Let the Spirit guide you through. Take a moment, listen to your heart. It will never steer you wrong. It knows just who you are and where you've been. Oh, the path will be clear when you go within. Yes, the path will be clear when you go with it. Oh.
Thank you, Susan. And now we would like to take that time we do each Sunday to have our offering. It takes a lot to run a church. I know from past experience of being a board member and a board chairman that the expenses still roll even though we're unable to attend the service. So this morning I'd like to have you go ahead and make your contribution to the Center for Spiritual Living. There's a number of ways to doing that. Besides your check, you can also do that online. And so pray with me that divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love and I receive in abundance, and so it is. We want to thank you again for joining us for this service. And if you will now join with me with a closing prayer treatment. I know that there's one power, one infinite mind, one loving spirit, one dynamic presence that I call God, that is expressing through me, through each of us, that there is only love. There's only God. And we are one with this spirit, this consciousness. And I declare that today is a wonderful day for each of us to express love, peace, joy with those that are close to us, but also to reach out to our community. To reach out to the community that right now is feeling loss and hurt. And that we can, through our own expression of love, create that ripple effect of consciousness and spirit that goes out to all of them. And we know that this is the power through our teaching, that we can have this effect on others, that we can live it. We can express it in so many different ways, and we learn that life is just a fantastic experience, even with the highs and the lows, that we always come back to the one spirit, the one dynamic spirit and consciousness. And we're so grateful for this. We know that nothing can stand in the way of this good. There's no opinions of others, no doubts, no fears. There's only one power, one love, one God, one heart. And so I say, thank you, God, for this. Thank you for this truth. And I release this treatment to the law, knowing it is so, and together we say, and so it is.